Caprio, if you believe in your statement, then you are nothing but an enraged fraud.
I am not a fraud.
How dare you suggest I am lying, you overgrown garden gnome?
Do not exist, and some interpretations of the Constitution are nothing more than deception, and that some Chief Justices do not hesitate to send federal marshals to arrest the spouse of a federal judge when that spouse abuses judicial status. Yet the true devastation of this case is not only the assault or the false constitutional assertions. It is what unfolded when Judge Caprio placed a single call to the office of the Chief Justice of the United States. That call brought federal marshals and ethics investigators into his courtroom, where they arrested the wife of a federal judge and set in motion events that ended her freedom and forced her husband into early retirement from the federal bench. It is a Monday afternoon in Providence Municipal Court. Standing before Judge Caprio is Catherine Morgan, age 46, wife of Federal District Court Judge Richard Morgan. She faces serious charges after a violent incident at Serenity Day Spa 5 days earlier. The victim is James Chen, age 71, a Vietnam veteran who arrived at the spa seeking relief for service-connected injuries. A scheduling confusion led to an unexpected confrontation. Catherine lost control and physically attacked him. James sustained cracked ribs and deep bruising as a result. When Providence police officer Sarah Martinez arrived and confrontational, she announced that she was connected to federal judicial authority and demanded deference. She insisted that the spouse of a federal judge was protected under constitutional separation of powers and that state officers had no authority to arrest her. Officer Martinez arrested her anyway. After 5 hours in custody, Catherine immediately contacted her husband's chambers demanding intervention. Now Catherine enters Judge Caprio's courtroom wearing a refined suit with gleaming jewelry and carrying a leather portfolio marked with the seal of the federal court. She moves with deliberate confidence as though her mere presence should convey authority unquestioned. Judge Caprio watches her carefully. Every detail of her posture and clothing seems carefully chosen to signal federal power. The bailiff calls the case. The State of Rhode Island versus Catherine and Morgan on charges of assault against an elderly person. Mrs. Morgan, how do you plead? She answers with polished certainty. Not guilty, Your Honor, and I object to these proceedings entirely. This court does not have jurisdiction over me. The spouse of a federal judge cannot be tried in a state municipal court. This case must be dismissed on constitutional grounds. Her tone makes clear she believes she is explaining established law to someone less knowledgeable. Judge Caprio narrows his eyes. Mrs. Morgan, this court has jurisdiction over crimes committed within this state. Please explain your claim. Catherine lifts her chin. Your Honor, my husband is Judge Richard Morgan of the United States District Court for the District of Rhode Island. He holds a lifetime appointment under Article 3 of the Constitution. The families of federal judges receive constitutional protections that place them beyond the authority of state courts. Federal hierarchy places the federal judiciary above state-level authority, and that protection extends to spouses. Judge Caprio asks her directly. Mrs. Morgan, are you claiming that marriage to a federal judge grants immunity from state prosecution? Not immunity, she replies, but jurisdictional protection. The families of federal judges must be tried in federal court, not state court, because the structure of the Constitution requires separation of powers at the judicial level. James Chen slowly rises when asked to step forward. His movements are careful and painful due to his cracked ribs. He wears a cap that marks his military service in Vietnam. Judge Caprio thanks him sincerely for his presence and his service. He then turns to Catherine. Mrs. Morgan, that man is 71 years old and a veteran who served this country. You attacked him at a spa. Catherine barely glances at James. Your Honor, an unfortunate misunderstanding occurred, but the court must resolve the jurisdictional matter before any evidence is considered. Federal judicial privilege must come first. If viewers are watching, remember to subscribe, because what follows reveals exactly what happens when someone fabricates constitutional protections to avoid accountability for attacking a veteran. The security footage begins. The video shows James Chen speaking calmly with a spa employee about his appointment. Catherine approaches visibly angry and interrupts. James appears confused. Catherine grows louder and more aggressive. James steps back with his hands raised defensively. Catherine moves closer, invading his space. When a staff member tries to intervene, Catherine pushes her aside and then strikes James with both hands. James stumbles backward and crashes against a decorative fountain. His face twists with pain as he grabs his ribs. Catherine turns away from him without offering help and confronts the staff, announcing that her husband is a federal judge and that they will be hearing from her attorneys. When the video ends, the courtroom sits in heavy silence. Judge Caprio speaks sharply. "Mrs. Morgan, that video clearly shows you attacking a 71-year-old veteran and then using your husband's position to intimidate the staff." Catherine responds coolly. "The video lacks context, Your Honor. James was aggressive over the schedule and I felt threatened." "Mrs. Morgan, he was backing away from you," the judge replies. "Your Honor," she continues, returning to her rehearsed argument, "the jurisdictional question must be settled first. My husband's federal status protects our family from improper state action. That is constitutional doctrine." The assistant district attorney brings forward additional testimony. Officer Martinez takes the stand. She explains that when she arrived, James was on the floor holding his ribs in pain. When she approached Catherine for questioning, Catherine immediately refused to cooperate. Officer Martinez recounts Catherine telling her that local police had no authority over the spouse of a federal judge and that any attempt at arresting her violated separation of powers. Judge Caprio asks for confirmation. She claimed constitutional protection from arrest. Officer Martinez answers yes. Repeatedly. Judge Caprio turns to Catherine. "Mrs. Morgan, did you tell Officer Martinez that you had constitutional protections from arrest?" Catherine opens her leather portfolio and produces a document. She holds it up confidently. "Yes, Your Honor, because the law supports that statement." She hands the document forward. It is an official-looking federal judicial dependent identification card with her photograph and federal markings. Catherine speaks with certainty. "Your Honor, federal judges do not simply have jobs. They hold constitutional offices under Article 3. Their families therefore receive protective status to prevent state authorities from undermining federal judicial authority. This card identifies me as a federal judicial dependent." Judge Caprio inspects the card. "Mrs. Morgan, this is a building access card without any legal meaning." Catherine answers as though correcting a student. "Your Honor, I understand municipal judges may not be aware of these protections, but they exist. Any constitutional lawyer familiar with federal judicial structure will confirm this." Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly. "You are telling this court that federal judges' wives are protected from criminal prosecution for assault." "Not absolute protection," she replies, "but jurisdictional shielding that ensures such cases are handled federally." Judge Caprio has heard enough. Clerk, place 2 calls. One to the Office of the Chief Justice of the United States and one to the Federal Judicial Ethics Office. For the first time, Catherine looks uneasy. She tries to protest, but Judge Caprio cuts her off. Moments later, 2 voices join through speakerphone. One from the chambers of the Chief Justice. One from the Director of the Federal Judicial Ethics Office. Judge Caprio summarizes the situation. He explains that Catherine has repeatedly claimed constitutional immunity based on her husband's position. A long silence follows. Then the senior counsel speaks with controlled shock. "Your Honor, did you say she is claiming constitutional immunity from state prosecution?" "Yes," Judge Caprio replies. The director of the ethics office then speaks in a firm, clear voice. "Your Honor, there is no constitutional protection for spouses of federal judges. None. Article 3 applies only to judges regarding their judicial functions. It does not protect spouses from criminal charges." The courtroom erupts in whispers. Catherine becomes visibly pale. The senior counsel continues. What Mrs. Morgan has described is a fabrication. There is no federal judicial privilege for family members. Spouses of federal judges are ordinary citizens with no special immunity of any kind. The idea she presented is completely false and deeply troubling. Judge Caprio asks about the federal ID card. The director clarifies that it is only for building access and has no legal authority. It is essentially a pass for entering the courthouse. Nothing more. Catherine tries to speak, but Judge Caprio firmly orders her to remain silent. The director of ethics adds that if Judge Morgan told his family such protections existed, he may face a serious ethics investigation. The senior counsel states that federal marshals will be sent immediately. If Catherine used false claims of federal authority to obstruct state law enforcement, she will face federal charges in addition to the state assault charges. The call ends. Catherine trembles. Tears begin to form. Judge Caprio faces her. You have heard the highest authorities in the federal judiciary. No such constitutional protections exist. You invented them to avoid responsibility. James Chen speaks softly but firmly. Your Honor, I am 71 years old. I served 2 tours in Vietnam. I still live with the injuries I brought home. I went to that spa to ease my pain. She attacked me and then claimed that the Constitution protected her because of who she married. That is not justice. That is corruption. Judge Caprio nods with deep respect. You are absolutely right, Mr. Chen. Just then 4 individuals enter the courtroom. 2 federal marshals and 2 federal judicial ethics investigators. The lead marshal steps forward and speaks with quiet authority. He announces they are there for Catherine Morgan. Catherine rises in panic, insisting her husband will fix everything because federal judges hold great power. The marshal replies that this belief is the very problem at hand. They place her in handcuffs and lead her from the courtroom. News spreads quickly. A federal judge's wife arrested for claiming invented constitutional immunity. The ethics office announces that Judge Morgan has been suspended pending investigation. Within 2 weeks he accepts early retirement rather than face impeachment. Catherine pleads guilty to both state and federal charges. She receives 8 months in federal custody, 3 years probation, 400 hours of community service with veterans groups, and a lifetime ban from all federal courthouses. After her release, she meets James Chen again. She apologizes without excuses. She admits she assaulted him and used her husband's position to intimidate and deceive, and that she was wrong. James answers with calm wisdom. Your husband's robe never made you special. Service to others is what gives a person true honor. If this story moved you, remember the message. No invented privilege, no fabricated constitutional claim places anyone above justice. Judge Caprio upheld the truth. The Chief Justice upheld integrity. James Chen embodied grace. Justice prevailed and constitutional fiction was exposed.